Hello, and welcome to another episode of the Profit Minds podcast. I'm your host, Dr. Stephen 𝐏𝐻𝐻, creator of the Profit Minds Growth System, a unique blend of profit growth, productivity acceleration, and building robust business process for scale. In every episode, I interview entrepreneurs and small business owners from around the world with a unique story to tell. You can find the show on YouTube, LinkedIn, Apple and Google Podcasts, Stitcher, Spotify, and more. Well, hello, everyone. Today, my guest is Hannah Bauer, founder and CEO of Heartnomics. Today, we're going to talk about leading change through love and excellence. Welcome, Hannah.
Hi, Steve. Thank you so much for having me here.
Yeah. So, the first question I ask every guest, tell us your story. How did you get to be the leader and the founder of Heartnomics?
Well, definitely was not intentional, or at least that's not what I thought. A lot of times like, oh, I'm gonna set out and I'm gonna do this. It started like that. Actually, my if you would say my origin story, like my kids like to say, "What's your origin story?" Is um, actually I was diagnosed with a heart disease when I was 4. So a lot of my methods that had come from learning in the hospital bed as I survived a terminal diagnosis as a kid, not really understanding what was going on.
Wow.
But as I went through that, the whole survival, what I learned in things that really were outside of my control, really in the midst of uncertainty, because there was no cure, there was no promise. But I did learn 2 things, and that was the language of love from my family, from the people around me, from the community, and then also what excellence looked like. And that was really from a lot from the medical doctors from the facilities, because I learned early on that excellence was failure and how we responded to those failures. There were a lot of failure points in trying to get to that cure. So fast forward when I am an entrepreneur and things are quote unquote normal, um, I realized that I was actually feeling the same way as I used to feel when I was a kid going through the heart disease. And didn't come to realize is because I wasn't operating in sync and rhythm. It was the same feeling of being out of rhythm, being out of sync, being out of alignment that I did physically with my body. But it was because of everything that was going on around me, the fear, the chaos, the trying to lead, not knowing where to go, the uncertain times, the teams, the communication, all of these other things that were going on, that brought me back to where I started, which is like, well, how did I get through those times? And that's where in putting that into operation for me internally, and then I'm amplifying it to my organization, actually allowed us to get through a very tough time in when that time was in the publishing industry, in navigating uncertainty, that allowed me to then be able to help my peers, fellow publishing houses, and eventually help lead the sector in 2016 when I was elected as chair for the American Association of Publishers. So in that, I had the opportunity to not only impact what our company did, but really be a voice for other publishers and help navigate this new digital world that we didn't know much about. And from that, I've always been in love with leadership development, equipping, and I'm not able to do it really all the time through the Maxwell Leadership Team, where I get to help other coaches and train them and go into corporations. But it's part of what I have lived, both in me personally, it's what I saw from, I had amazing examples, and being able to put that into the organization and really seeing how truly love and excellence can coexist, but it's leadership that makes them work together.
Yeah, that's interesting because, most people don't think about love in a corporate environment. So talk a
I
little
know.
bit about that. How do you talk to CEOs about the concept of love in a corporate environment?
Well, there's a couple of things. Actually, I mean, I didn't put that together until I heard it was actually at the 20-year anniversary of my surgery. And didn't say that. eventually what came to the cure is I'm the pioneer for a high risk cardiac surgery at the time in 1992. So I was the medical breakthrough for cardiac ablation.
Mm,
And they did a 20-year anniversary, a documentary, the Children's Healthcare of Atlanta here. And that was the first time I actually got to hear my doctor talk about, like what happened. I mean, again, I was a kid. I was, 12, 13, 14. I mean, I'm just trying to breathe. I don't know all the ins and outs from the scientific part.
right, right.
So when I hear what he said, and in a clear sentence in the interview, he said that their whole goal was just trying to keep me alive long enough so that technology could catch up, is when it clicked for me. Because what kept me alive long enough? The sustainability for the innovation to come in, that was love. And love is that empathy. Love was that care. Love was what sustained me through the hardest moments. Again, and I looked at my leadership, I realized that I could have a lot of tactics, a lot of tasks, but if I didn't have empathy that went along with it, if I didn't have the emotional intelligence that went along with how I even delegated the tasks, if you are not lovingly giving delegation, that delegation is not going to take fruit. Empowerment takes love. Empowerment is not a task, just a process. Empowerment, when you empower somebody, you're loving them. And it's really, when we're talking about CEOs and so many things that we ask from them to do, we ask them to, in essence, they're selling a vision, right? But they really is an emotion. It's an emotional exchange. If you look at that in sales, we talk about that all the time. Sales is an exchange of emotions. And love is the greatest of all emotions. It's the foundation of everything that we do. So where does love fit into business? It's everything. It's the entire emotional aspect. When you're talking about a leader to be able to be empathetic, lead with empathy so they can train, so they can be patient with their team, so they can see the other things that are going around, that they actually take the time to understand the human behind the task, the human that is also receiving the products. It takes love, because it's going to mean I'm not going to be thinking about myself. I have to think about you. If I'm talking about thinking about empathy, it's going to require even a different level of love, not just a self-love, but a love for others.
Yeah, I think that's really insightful. When I was managing teams at Intel, I wouldn't have characterized it as love, but I certainly cared about all of the employees that worked for me. In fact, I would have conversations with them about, my job was to remove roadblocks
Hmm.
and and to make sure that they came to work excited about what they were doing.
Yeah.
And I would have conversations with them, say, look, if you're not excited about what you're doing, come talk to me. I'll find you something that's exciting, something that really gets your juices glowing. Because I knew as a manager that if they love what they do, and there's the love word, right? If they
Exactly.
love what they do, they're going to think about it all day long. They're going to be much more engaged as employees. And we all know that the primary indicator of retention is engagement.
Hey, there you go. And how do you just said it? How do you engage? I mean, you love it. We love to use the word passion. If we say passion,
Yes.
passion is even a greater expression. I mean, think about passion. It's like love amplified. Talk about companies that have great mission and vision statement. We're passionate about customer service. So passion very much has a word. I mean, like we want to vocalize it. So here's the deal, because this is where the disconnect comes, right? We want these things. We want engagement, right? You talked about excitement. I mean, when are you excited when something's new? When it's that novelty? There's a newness. There's a like, hey, how can I do this in a different way? There's hope, because you're engaged when you're hopeful that, hey, if we do this, it's gonna look like this at the end. I mean, there's hope, in there. Hope and love, they go together. Um, but if you think about it, disconnect is that we want all these things, yet we still asking that no, emotions are staying out of the place. We keep things task and we're going to be efficient. And let me tell you, I was, that's how I discovered that I was doing it wrong, because there is a place for process, and that's what I talk about in excellence. As I was mentioned, I went through the whole disruption with my company, and trying to be nimble, and we had to do more with less. So where could I put the best effort? Well, I became a black belt in Six Sigma. And guess what? It worked. It worked really well. I got my processes, my systems very well. But guess what happened? I became disconnected from my people because I started leading by memos, processes, systems, and I forgot what had gotten me there to begin with. And that was connecting with my people. So what did I see in the height and in the success that we were getting? My talent was walking out the door. My people were leaving. Although we were in a better place financially, but it wasn't enough because the environment wasn't well. And when people don't see a place where they belong, where they matter, they're going to find somewhere else. Even if everything there's clarity, we talk about clarity. If we have, even if we have the priorities, right? We have the processes, all this stuff. If they don't find themselves valued or like we see them or we love them, they're going to go. So I learned that the hard way when I started seeing the people that I had invested, highly invested in, walk out the door. And it honestly is because I had stopped connecting with my heart. And my heart was my people, always is. This is a human center. We serve humans. Humans serve other humans. That's the other user. So it's a matter of keeping them connected.
Again, the statistics are really clear. People almost never leave a job.
No,
They leave a manager
that's right.
because the manager doesn't care.
Yeah,
The manager puts him or herself above the employees. If the manager is not a servant leader, it's a really difficult place for the employees to be. They know that the only reason they're getting support is so that they can make their manager look good. Well, you know what that's like, right? Nobody likes an environment like that.
no, no, no. And you bring up servant leadership, and absolutely, I mean, again, that's rooted in love. You can't serve somebody you don't love. You just can't.
Yeah.
Otherwise, we talk the opposite of a servant leader. What? And narcissist, an emperor, right?
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
that just only thinks of themselves. That means a loveless person, that person that has no emotion. And we're requiring our leaders to be that, right? And that's a lot on our leaders. And it is, of course, it's the right way. But we're also wanting to disarm them from the very, I guess what you would say, like their mojo, your emotion. We want to disarm them from like, hey, well, we just want you to do straight and just the numbers. We don't care about just the numbers, but every time I talk to you, we're only talking about numbers. And this is where a lot of technology has come in, right? Because technology does help with data. It does help with be able to analyze those things, but it's supposed to do all these other things. So then it opens up more time. And what are we choosing to do with that time? That is the opportunity that leaders have with that time, is to be able to connect with others. That's something that technology is not going to be able to do. Technology is a tool for the human, is a support for the human. But at the end of the day, it's going to be the human that's going to sustain. It's the greatest algorithm of all. I mean, algorithm basically, is measuring is human behavior. I mean, it's measuring us. We are the algorithm, y'all.
Yeah. So let's talk a little bit about technology, right? Let's talk
Yeah.
about the impact that AI is having on this whole equation, right? I mean, one of the things that we talk about with our clients as we're helping them to learn how to use AI, right? Is that there are certain processes that you want to leverage AI because it will help you do them faster.
Yeah.
Um, and then there are others where you want to leverage AI because it will help you do them better. But
Mm.
that's because you have time to do those things better
Mm-hmm.
because you've taken some of those other things and shrunk the time that right that AI that you can do those. You shrunk the time using AI and
Right.
leveraging that technology.
Right. So, I mean, and it goes back again to like the purpose, right? Because you said, for example, in Lean Six Sigma, one of the wastes, we have 8 wastes. One of the 8 wastes is the overprocessing. I mean, just the amount of time we take
Mm-hmm.
processing one thing and the other thing, and maybe like one team member is processing the same thing in a different way, but it's still the same process. At the end of the day, we're just over processing, over documentation. How many times you have to fill out the form, which was happening a lot. I mean, it happens a lot in silos and all those things. It still happens, but AI would have been it's a good solution to solve that, right? To decrease specifically that waste, the over processing, even the overproduction, the waste of overproduction. So if you look at just that again, okay, so I'm reducing the time in the over processing, but what am I again doing with that time? And that goes back again to the amplifying, because it's supposed to be like, okay, so now I don't have to spend all this time processing, so I can then spend time in higher level things,
Right.
as a human, higher level things. What am I spending them on? Unfortunately, we're not doing that, are we? I mean, we're adding on more things. I mean, we don't fail because of a lack of data. We have a lot of data. I mean, we live in the information era, what is called the data. I mean, we got data everywhere. We got data on everything, from how many times we breathe. I mean, I'm wearing a little ring that tells me how many breaths I take a minute, my heart rate, I go obsessing over the data. Well, how much did I sleep? How good did I sleep? I mean, we're measuring everything, by choice, by not by choice. But what I'm saying is we have a lot of data. So that's not the problem, right? And a lot of times before the humans, right, we were used to collect data. I mean, like it literally surveys, and actually had to go through the surveys. I remember having to go through the surveys and manually looking at it, so that then we can analyze, and that whole process could take like, weeks or months.
Right.
So now it's down to like hours. Once you put the information in, it can even be seconds for some things. But then again, what are we doing with that? What is going to dictate what we're doing with that time is going to be the culture, because we're talking about introducing technology and AI. There's a lot of these transformation things, right? We call them the digital transformation, the digitizing of our companies. But did you know over 85% of the transformations fail? Now, it's according to McKinsey. Over 85% of the transformation, the digital transformation, are failures inside the companies. And it's not because we don't have the tools, it's because this culture is not in place to sustain these transformations. So what happens? Disconnection, burnout, um, lack of identity. Like, where do I belong? Fear comes in. You don't have the same output from somebody who's in fear than somebody who feels secure. That's where we go back to psychological safety. So these are all of the things. Again, it's you can inject all kinds of tools into your organization, but if you don't have the culture that dictates, that tells you, well, how do we properly use these tools and what do these tools mean to us, we're not going to be successful in those transformations or even have the transformation that we're looking to achieve.
Oh, that's so insightful. I mean, yeah, and we say the same thing to our leaders who are going to implement AI across the board, is you have to get in front of it. You have to let people know that the purpose for AI is not to fire half the people, right? We're
Yeah.
not going to get rid of staff because of AI, but we're going to enable you to do more things, to do different things. All of the things that's on your, gosh, I wish I had time to do that, sort of those higher level things.
Yeah.
That's
And isn't
really
that
powerful.
yeah, it is, but isn't that something? Because usually the reason why we say that we haven't done something is because, oh, I don't have time for this, or I'm so busy. Busy meaning my time is eaten up. So the promise with all these tools is that we're going to have more time, and yet we don't,
So
right?
why is that?
Again, it goes back to priorities. What's the priority? What's the technology? What's the meaning behind this? I mean, we can have, like, I mean, for example, I have a lot of things on my phone. So I've been guilty of this. Like, I've gotten into the AI, and I search one thing, and then that searching goes into another search, and then that search goes into another search. And it's like, oh, would you like me to do this? Yeah, can you do that? Yes. And I'll start reading all that. Oh, can you do that? Yes. 2 hours later,
Yeah,
I'm
it's
still
the
in that.
same rabbit hole we found with social media, right?
Yes. Yes. And again, because you know what? That without purpose is going to be a waste. So it goes back to the purpose. We have
Hmm.
to be clear in what is the purpose in using this. I mean, that went into a whole, like you said, rabbit hole, 2 or 3 hours, because it was not purposeful. It might have been insightful. It might have been entertaining. It might have been like, hey, I learned something new. I can probably say I learned something. But was it purposeful? Was it priority for what I wanted and needed to do today and to take me to where we need to go? So it's not just the tool, but if we don't attach purpose to it, how does this go to purpose of us as an organization? Because we know that high performing teams are also teams that are high in their purpose, that understand that, hey, this is a good job, not just because it's a good job, it's a job that needs to be done so that we can continue to provide solutions to the world, so that our services are reaching to that person that needs it. There's purpose in our work. There's purpose on us being here. And that was one of the things that for me, when we were going through disruption, that was what brought me back to my core, because it was easy to question in a world with ebooks and where suddenly content for a publishing house, content is king. But not if content became free, which is what happened. All this content became free. So what I'm saying is the value add. It's not what the customer is saying the value add, because now content is everywhere. So how do we then, as a content developer, still have a place in this world with the work that we do? So we had to rethink what we did. We had to rethink the content in context, understanding that is what, how else did we serve? What were the needs that were coming in? It wasn't just us, it was our end users. Teachers, their roles change from being lecturers, from the schoolhouse being where you go get knowledge, to, hey, I got knowledge in my phone, I got knowledge wherever I want, to how do I apply knowledge instead of being a lecturer going into facilitator. So seeing that their roles change, we also had to change so that we can continue to be able to serve our customer. We had to reimagine and redesign what is our purpose, what is our meaning. And it went back to the core, like what is that solution we want to be for the world? Why are we here? And that's really where leadership comes in. That culture answers that question, why? Because we need that. That's part of humanity. It's like we want to know the why.
Yeah. Yeah. So how does that translate into this, into now the AI space where you have you have the world's experts at your
Mhm.
fingertips now in terms of content and how to approach a problem and what to do. How do you see that disrupting that same sort of thing for the knowledge worker?
Well, it goes back again to the purpose. I mean, the question is not about knowledge, right? I mean, knowledge we know is being developed all the time. It's how we leverage that knowledge, right? We have to know how to leverage, and that's a lot of the how do we integrate that knowledge? So that's the next question, because a lot of knowledge developers, right, like or content developers, or what we're doing is like, hey, great, here's all the information, but do you have the skill to integrate that information into your daily activity to where it's actually going to create impact? And that's the question that comes up, right? How does the knowledge alone never changed anything? It's the application of that knowledge that changes things. So it's the action that either I change in the action, maybe I won't do something because now I got this new information. It's like, oh, I'm not going to do that anymore because I just learned something. So that's going to change, a behavior, or, oh, I'm going to do that every time, because I learned something and behavior. So the way that we see it is, what is the information, what is that knowledge, is building that bridge, right, on how do we integrate it, and how do we, in depending on the products or the things, but how is it part of your life? The same thing with leadership. I mean, that's one of the when talking with leaders, that's where I hear a lot of the burden. It's like, oh, that's one more thing, like, okay, that's just one more process, one more project, one more program, one more hack, one more thing that we had to do. um and when you start looking at leadership as one more thing I have to do, it takes away the joy of leadership, because leadership really is an expression. It's what I call, as a functional leader is, it's what we do, leading with empathy, being the self-aware leader, being the leader that provides clarity, that provides priority. That is part of who we are. It's an extension. And in order for us to be able to give that, we're going to have to grow in it. And we're going to have to keep ourselves filled in it. So when we use information, Is how is that information going to help me grow in the area that I know I need to grow in? So that's where the information comes in. That's where the knowledge comes in.
Yeah. And so how does that translate for, you know, somebody who says, I want to be a better leader? What are the things that they need to focus on? Yeah, you can get all kinds of information, you can get all kinds of training, you can get the AI to do the training for you if you want.
Yeah.
But what's the transformation that somebody has to go through to become that heart-centered leader?
Well, I think you just said it, right? It goes back to what's the transformation I want to see, because the transformation really is the end goal. So what is that transformation? That whatever the transformation, that's the transformation is the outcome of the actions that I take, of the mind shifts that I do, of the things that of the communities, the people I do work with. Together, all of that added up is transformation. So that would be the question: what is that transformation? What is that impact I want to see? For the leaders, that has to be front center every day, because it is hard. I mean, we're asking leaders all the time, you got to make decisions. Decisions are hard to make. There's conflicts. Obviously, if there's conflicts, it actually is job security for the leaders, because if there's no conflict, they don't need leaders. You just everybody's
That's
just
right.
doing their own thing. So conflict is another thing, but we're asking the leaders, they have to go into the front lines. I mean, again, we say if you're getting kicked in the rears because you're leading something, it's gonna happen if you're raising a hand, it's gonna be part. So being clear on what is that transformation I want to see, what is that impact, because that's gonna being clear on that, on what's the outcome, is then gonna bring clarity to, well, what's that next step? How do I get there? Almost like, well, the back engineering part. We don't know necessarily what the next step is right away, but we may know what we don't want. So like, well, how do I prevent that? Or also say, well, what do we want, right? Going back to just that motivation. We either are running away from pain or running towards pleasure. So one of those two things, everything goes back to that, right? Like, okay, so am I going into fear? Am I what's going to get me out of fear? But clarity as a leader on what is that transformation, what is that impact that you want to see, in the quality of life. Because we, again, sometimes we tend to put leaders in, and I have heard that, and I heard that actually a lot from the younger generations. They don't want to be leaders. Like, I really don't, if that's what if that's what a leader looks like, and because they've been under bad leadership, or they see leaders that are just exhausted and tired and busy all the time, don't have time for anything, why would they want that? So we have to also see, well, what, as a leader, being cognizant of be living out a fulfilled life. As a leader, again, being an expression of what we do. That's where I started with that's what my heart framework is about. It's about hope, right? So about the heart and leadership, hope, empowerment, accountability, results, and trust. Those are the values that I have seen in leaders that are top leaders, that are killing it out there, but are also enjoying their lives. Those are values that are very alive in what they do. And that is a big part. Transformation will tell you what the values also that you want to live out and you want to be known for, just like we do for our companies. We have to do it personally.
Yeah, I think I want to say Gandhi said it best, right? Be the change that you want to see in the world.
Oh, yeah.
And I think that really sums up, I think, what I'm hearing from you about, what does it take to be that transformational leader? Is you've got to lead by example, but
Yeah.
it's got to be a positive example. It's got to
Yeah.
be something that people want to emulate. Uh, Otherwise, yeah, well, and if it's not worth living, right? If your life is not worth living, why are you doing it that way, right?
Yeah, 100%. Energy is a big deal. And I think that's where the AI and all this technology parts is like, hey, it's going to open that time. That means you're going to have more energy. But you really think about it. I mean, think about it, if what are the types of choices we make when we don't have the energy, even just in eating, like just regular daily stuff. When you're tired, you're not very mindful of what you're eating. It's like whatever's available, if you're tired, you might be more irritable, it's just the energy factor. And it goes the same way with leadership. I mean, that's what, what we're saying, like passion and love, it has to be there because we are having to make decisions all the time. I mean, it's just part that comes with it.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
that's just part of leadership. Conflict's gonna be there. If there's conflict, guess what? If you weren't involved in it, you're about to get to be, because you gotta go in there. Okay, just like the first responder, you're gonna go in there. That's what a leader does. You're gonna have to bring clarity when like everything's ambiguous. You're gonna have to there's a lot of different things, and it does get draining and it gets tiring, which is why it's so important for that self-aware leader to know that, to be able to get re-energized, to be passionate, to be aligned internally so they can execute externally with excellence.
Yeah. And it's so much easier to do that when everything lines up.
Oh, yeah. I mean, just look at a car. Look what happens. And you try driving a car. I mean, I've had it where, and this is the thing, right? Because we cope. When the alignment is like this way, oh, I know I'm going to have to drive a little bit more this way so I can drive straight.
Yeah. Yeah.
And we'll put the pressure until it breaks on us, or now instead of having just one tire that I have to replace, I have to replace everything because of everything else.
That's right.
Because I've been coping with the misalignment because I didn't have time to go change it, or I didn't have the resource, or whatever the reason was. I still had to get there. I'm willing to put up with the dysfunction just to get it done. In turn,
But it's harder.
It's harder, and it's going to cost. At the end of the day, you're going to have to pay more.
Yeah.
You're going to have to pay. And the same thing is with in leadership is you can't do it for a time, but you're gonna, at the end of the day, it's gonna come. The cost is gonna be there. It's going to be high, and it's gonna cost. If you're looking at misalignment, it doesn't just cause problems to that one tire. It can cause problems to the entire structure of the car, things that had nothing to do with it, just because of the way it had to adjust for the misbalance. It's the same thing in organizations. When we are not dealing with, when we're not aligned, even the departments that could be perfectly well, there's nothing wrong, because we're a system within a system, is going to impact the end. So that's very important for the leaders to be aware of that, because that's one of the main jobs. They're bringing alignment. How are we aligning with the mission, with the vision, with the values? How are we aligning with the people? How are we aligning with what the customers need, where the future's coming, what we're seeing come down? We do a service for our customers. We're able to see some things before they see it. We're able to forecast some of the changes for our people, for our teams. So you think about that, even forecasting and technology needs, so
Yeah.
we forecast things. In alignment is what allows you to do that. There's times where we have to go fast. There's times where we have to go slow down. It takes just as much energy to slow down as it does to go fast. It really does. Try taking a rest in the middle of something. I mean, I don't think I have tried to sleep. Like I literally have been fighting to be at rest. I'm like, how can it be so hard to rest? And that goes back to what's the culture? What's the culture telling us? Alignment is going to help you to be able to realize when you need to rest, when you got to slow down, when you got to move faster. We talk about adaptability. We talk about agility. Well, you can't be adaptable and agile if you're not aligned. It's not going to work. You're going to have dysfunction.
Or you're going to wind up adapting all the
Oh,
time. and you're never going to make progress.
That's right.
So Hannah, do you have a free gift for our listeners that have listened to us for this whole time?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, you can see alignment is a big deal for me. So if you want to check what your alignment is individually or in your organization, you can go to my website, heartnomics.com, and you can take the free assessment there. If you go under assessments, there's one that you can take either for your own personal alignment or one for your organization to see how you are currently in alignment with your values.
Great. And if people want to get in touch with you to learn more, what's the best way to reach out?
LinkedIn. LinkedIn is great. If you look under for my name, Hannah Bauer. Also on Facebook And again, you can just also fill out the form and my website at heartnomics.com.
Great. And that concludes our show. Thanks so much to my guest, Hannah Bauer, the founder and CEO of Heartnomics. I hope you learned something about leading change through love and excellence. I know I did. Thanks for listening.
Thanks for having me.
You've been listening to the Profit Minds podcast. This is your host, Dr. Stephen Kirch. Please visit www.profitminds.net for other episodes or to contact me. Thank you for your positive feedback, comments, questions, and for sharing this show with others. Thanks for listening. Have a grateful day.